listener to a realm where shadows whisper secrets and the veil between reality and nightmare thins. As you navigate these twisted tales of darkness and dread, let the chills that dance along your spine be a testament to the macabre delights we unfold. If these stories ensnare your imagination and haunt your dreams, share. For the more who join our dark descent, the deeper we can plunge into the eerie abyss together. And remember, as you turn off the lights and let the darkness embrace you, true terror lies not in what you hear, but in what you fear.
The Death Collector, Part 3. It got pretty busy with a new job recently, but I'm finally ready to share some more secrets. Well, it hasn't all been about work, to be honest. There was a very long night filled with nightmares about what I guess I'll refer to as the Trenchcoat Man. But it seems to have subsided after I put everything away and put out some meat again. I was also able to get some holy water to sprinkle carefully on Teresa. Ever since, it only came on once with a short sermon from the kind woman preacher. If memory serves, the sermons will be sparse and go mild again for a few months. Anyway, I'm glad to say I finally got my first request for an Alan. It's not spelled the same, but I actually do have two. The first one is short and a lot lighter compared to my other secrets, so I'll share that first. This man, Alan, was a former butcher from Pennsylvania that was insistent on looking for something called a squonk. So he could cheer it up. I had no idea what those were going into this particular home, but after digging around a bit, I found plenty of art, stories, and accounts. He'd collected to try and track one down. Honestly, all the more power to him. I wanted to cheer one up myself after hearing about how miserable these poor things were. In case you're as in the dark as I am, these are wrinkled, pig-like creatures with warts and moles on their baggy skin. They have webbed left feet, for some reason, and cry all the time. And I mean all the time. They can even be tracked down by following the trails of tears and dissolve into a whole puddle of them when someone tries to catch them. Poor creatures. If I ever run into one, I made a promise to try to cheer it up for Alan on his behalf. And anytime I come across a puddle or trail of water where it shouldn't be, I joke to myself that I must have scared off a squonk. He only had one kid that was still in Pennsylvania and wasn't able to make the trip to his dad's house. He was already dealing with getting his dad's body across state lines. But I actually gave him a collection of notes and such when I saw him, and we had a good laugh about it. One of the few secrets that I thought a family would actually like to know. Last I heard from Jeffrey, he still attends Squonkapalooza in Jonestown as a way of sharing something with Alan now that he's gone. I hope he ends up finding one. But I already know these aren't the kind of secrets you're hoping to hear. After all, they aren't the kind that I keep in the museum to start with. Still, I hope it gave you a laugh. Now let's talk about Alan, aka Alan with an E, for the purposes of my records. I was actually contacted in person for this case, a relative rarity. I forgot why exactly I was in the office, probably doing some of the paperwork side of the job, if I had to guess, when a tall woman with dark brown eyes suddenly opened the door and walked purposefully to my desk. The sudden intrusion made me jump, and I remembered her eyes the most because they had me pinned in place with a level of intensity she had in them. Can I help you? I asked, unusually nervous. She put one of the cards on the desk and slid it towards me. Callahan recommended you. Said you can clear out houses for families of the deceased. I nodded. Callahan was in my circle at funeral homes, a timid kind of guy that was balding and wore glasses. Poor guy must have been shaking if this is how this woman always was. My name is Alicia, and I need the house of my father Alan cleaned out. That should be fine. I just need you to fill out. I wasn't able to finish my statement because as soon as I had the form on my desk, she had taken it from me to read it through. Just as quickly, it was back in my hand, with her only having filled out the consents. Are you sure you don't? Positive. Donate it, trash it, burn it, take it yourself for all I care. My sister should be there getting whatever paperwork we need for the estate today. So by the time you come tomorrow, we'll have whatever it is we need. Despite her calm demeanor, I couldn't help myself. I had to ask. I'm getting the sense you weren't close. Her jaw tightened slightly, and her mouth briefly became one thin line as her eyes hardened, impossibly more than they were. He's been dead to me and my siblings for years. His body just finally followed suit. So can you come tomorrow or not? Yeah, I just need the specs so I know how much to charge. I read the form. The house is 2,015 square feet, and I'm fine with paying whatever that and the cost of labor comes out to, as long as neither me nor my siblings need to step foot in there after today. I was a bit taken aback and checked the form again. Sure enough, the number she gave me was already written down next to the information for cost per square meter at the baseline. I hadn't even seen her fill it. My mistake. Thank you for letting me know. I can be there tomorrow at 10 a.m. if that works for you. She seemed to finally untense somewhat. With it, her eyes softened. Yes, that should be fine. My number is the one written down in case you have any questions. But honestly, unless it's money or something we missed for the estate, none of us really care about what's there. I made a note of that in the form as I double-checked the number, which actually was there. 2, despite the short time she had the form, I was impressed. She was quick. Perfect. Thank you, Alicia. I'll make sure not to bother you unless it's important, so you don't have to worry. Another level of tense seemed to come off of her, and she actually smiled. Thank you. Of course, after that kind of introduction, I was both excited and nervous to see what there was to find at this house. It wouldn't have been my first time having to bring something to the police if need be, but I was hoping that it wouldn't be necessary, given the level of hostility Alicia had given to just the idea of her father. This kind of hate, combined with needing to involve the police, would lead to more than a few sleepless nights spent questioning humanity and whether there's good in the world. I'd rather avoid an existential crisis if I could help it. The house was a nice, cozy-style old ranch, situated within eyesight of another house on each side, but enough of a walk that visiting would take some effort. The wraparound porch was cozy and welcoming. A rocking chair set out there with a small outdoor table near the door. And I must have been careful, and I had to be careful not to knock over the single plant on the second to last step. It must have been lonely here at times, but honestly, I was a little jealous of this place. A note on the door let me know where they hid the keys for me, and I had the signatures of 2 other people I hadn't met, presumably Alicia's siblings, Charlie and Maisie. I never had a chance to ask, but I still wonder if Maisie was short for something. Inside was spotless, aside from some disturbed dust. Either Alan himself had kept it damn clean, or his kids had tried to make my job easier. But the dust made me think that Alan was the tidy one. Couldn't complain though. Let me get right to work. There were no pictures on the walls, and I noticed, after a few rooms, that there hadn't been any before I came in either, with no telltale holes, nails, screws, or off-color squares to make where they'd been. In fact, the rooms themselves seemed to only have what they needed in the terms of basics: chairs, a few tables, a bookshelf or 2 full of poetry books, with some other volumes scattered in between, refrigerator, that kind of stuff. Minimal decorations. Kind of boring, honestly. It wasn't until I went to go upstairs that I noticed the rifle by the door, almost hidden by the coat rack it was leaning against. Damn, I'd have to turn that in with some paperwork to the nearest police department. Firearms tend to be a huge pain. On a hunch, I went to find the back door and found it in the kitchen with an axe upright against the trash can. Okay, not another firearm, but almost weirder. The guy had a fireplace, sure, but keeping that in the house wasn't exactly the norm. I dug in my backpack for a makeshift inventory list and marked down the rifle before continuing upstairs, a little disappointed with how easy this house seemed to be. Upstairs was more of the same. Another bathroom, roughly above where the downstairs one was, and what looked like a storage room that I planned to save for last. The only other door seemed to be to the man's bedroom, so that's where I went first. More basic furniture, all wooden, but I was pleasantly surprised to see a galaxy-themed blanket folded on the bed to break up the monotony, nothing of note under the clothes on the drawers, and a single dirty magazine under the bed that was painfully tame. As I started to lose hope that there was any discernible reason why Alan's kids hated him so much, I found a leather-bound notebook in the topmost drawer of his end table. Jackpot. I sat on the bed as I opened it and found, in between what seemed to be his own poetry, a few scattered entries from this year. They're here again. Why the hell won't they just leave me alone? I don't even answer them anymore. And yet, they just keep knocking. I made a big show of loading my rifle as loudly as possible near the front door, but they didn't even pause this time. They know I won't open it. They know I don't want to see them. So then why do they even bother? Why are they fucking torturing me like this? I raised an eyebrow curiously. Maybe the hatred from his kids was more recent if they were the same they he mentioned in this entry. I mean, damn, if somebody I cared about not only didn't want to see me, but threatened me with a gun, I'm not sure how else I would react. I skimmed through a few more pages of poetry, which seemed to be astronomy themed, before I found another. They're coming so close often now. It used to be months, even years between them showing up at my doorstep. Now I'm lucky if it's a full week. What do they want? I know they want in, but why me? Why do they want me to let them in? I'm not doing it, damn it. I don't care if I'm at death's door. They can have in after I've crossed that threshold, even if I have to hold out for hours before they stop knocking. Why was he being so stubborn? Was it really his kids he was so adamant against? I don't know, but it was the only option I had at the moment. Several more poems, all about constellations, and then another. They're trying to keep me from sleeping. They seem to be hoping I'll crack and open the door to make it stop. You can knock all night, you little bastards. I'm not opening that fucking door. It's the windows in the back door now, too. I keep the curtains on the back door drawn so I don't see their faces. The windows are all usually closed at night anyhow, but the back door curtains are so damn sheer that I can see the outlines of them out there. I almost made eye contact with one of them, and I damn near pissed myself. Please, just go away. Just leave me alone. Why won't they just leave? Why won't they stop? I don't know if it's the stress, but I'm getting sicker. The doctor said I need more rest, but I couldn't tell him why I can't sleep. At least he gave me some sleeping pills. I can't take the pills. After a few nights, I woke up at the door with my hand on the handle. I don't remember if sleepwalking was one of the side effects, but I won't risk it. The only thing keeping me sane is writing this down and looking at the old journals in the clutter room. It's the only reason I know that I'm not imagining this, that the cancer isn't taking my mind from me. I'm going to die soon, and if they can't even let me die in peace, it's rest in pieces, you little shits. Let me rest in peace. I just want peace. After all these years, please, just let me have some peace. I'll have my peace one way or another. Either you're gonna kill me, or I'm gonna kill you. Either way, the next time you come will be the last. Burn in hell, you little demons. I turned the next page in anticipation, but there was only one short letter. To my children. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. None of this was your fault. It was them. It was always them. But they made me afraid of you. As much as I hate to say it, the truth is that they made me hate you. Hate your mother for having you. But that wasn't fair. You didn't deserve any of this. I'm so sorry. I deserve whatever you think of me. That was all. That was the last thing in the journal. Thankfully, I knew it wasn't the only one. Despite my earlier decision to save what I now knew as the clutter room for last, I needed to know who they were. I needed to know who the hell could make a man hate his own children and hate his own wife for having them. Were they the ones knocking? After digging through several boxes, I found several leather-bound journals that were similar to the one by his bedside table, mixed in with some nicer ones that seemed to have been solely for the poetry he had been writing prior to getting sick. After rearranging the half-assembled deutelescope and a few boxes of pictures that were taped far too much, I was able to find a place to sit as I peeked at the first page of each one. As I peeked at the first page of each to find the oldest one, it was pretty easy to find. Kids write pretty big after all. Dear Journal, today I got you from my mom as a birthday present. She said I should practice my writing every night so I can be ready for first grade next year. Adam said that everyone passes kindergarten, But I bet he only said that because I worked extra hard and he wants to make fun of me. I'm gonna practice lots and I'll be the bestest writer in the first grade. Dear Journal, today I went swimming with Adam at a pond near Judy's house. Judy's really nice, even though she is a big kid like Adam. She told me big kids don't like to play with little kids because we aren't as smart. But Judy said that she thought I was fun. I hope we go swimming at the pond with Judy again real soon. The next few passages were cute, but more the same. Adam seemed to be his older brother and teased him a lot, and he seemed to be developing a crush on Judy for being nice to him. There were a lot of stories about them going to pools or parks. There were a lot of stories of them going to the park or the pond together, sometimes with a few other kids, but it became very clear that poor Alan didn't have a lot of, or maybe any, friends his own age. Dear Journal, I had to play at home by myself today. Adam said that he wanted to do something without having to bring little kids. It's not fair. Lucky for me, Judy was home, and she said she would play with me. We made drawings at her house on the sidewalk with chalk. Dear Journal, I found a spelling book from when Adam was in first grade, and I've been practicing some of the harder words. But I'm trying not to cheat when I'm writing, so you can see how much better I'm doing. That way, I have something to do when Adam goes to play without me. Jesus, why did Adam hate his brother so much? This was really sad. It almost made me want to call my brother and make sure I didn't do this kind of shit to him when we were kids. I skipped a few entries that were more of the same, though I did notice his spelling was getting better, and found one that looked interesting. Dear Journal, today I made a new friend. He didn't tell me his name, but he was really nice. We met at the park, and we played on the jungle gym for a while. He has weird eyes, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Mom said that if someone's different, not to make them feel bad about it. But I really haven't seen anyone before where they had black on all of the eye and not just in the middle part. Black on all of the eye and not just the middle part? Does he mean like really dark brown eyes? I flipped until I found another one talking about his new friend. Dear Journal, my new friend was at the park today and we played with sticks that were on the ground and pretended they were swords. He was really good, and I accidentally asked how he was so good when all of his eye was black. I was worried I hurt his feelings, but he said that even though his eyes were all black, he could still see, even with the white part colored in too. That's really cool. I wish my eyes were all blue like his were all black. Wait, even the part of his eye was black? I hadn't heard of that before. I mean, except for some of those internet stories about the black-eyed children, but they always ask people to come in at their cars and houses. I've never heard them just playing with regular kids. Dear Journal, my new friend asked me about my eyes today and why there were so many colors. I said that's how everyone I knew's eyes were. He asked me if I wanted to have eyes like him instead, and I said that he was being silly because you can't make your eyes different. He said he had brothers and sisters who had eyes like him and that some of them didn't have eyes like that before. I asked what were they like before, and he said they were like mine, but that they were bigger kids, so he didn't know how they did it, and he could ask if they would make mine like his. I asked if they could make them go back after, but he said he didn't know. I said it was okay to ask because I'd like them to be all black for a little while, but if they could make them all blue instead, that I would do it even if they stayed that way. Dear Journal, my new friend isn't my friend anymore. When I went to see him at the park, there was a bunch of kids with him that all had black eyes like he did. He said that they wanted to meet me. I was a little scared, but I said, "Hi, my name's Alan," like you're supposed to do when you meet someone new. They didn't say anything, but they all looked at each other, and some of them nodded and looked at the kid. The kid said they liked me and wanted me to be his new brother. I said I already had a brother, and I thought that they were going to see if I could have black eyes for a little bit. He said it'd be forever, but it would make us brothers, and they'd all be nicer than Adam and would never leave me by myself like Adam. It sounded nice. All of them looking at me made me feel all cold, so I said no. The kid got real mad, and I got scared and ran home. They followed me and kept knocking on the door and telling me to let them in. And Mom was at work, and I started crying because I was so scared. Then Adam came back in the back door and asked why I was crying. I said I was scared of the kids outside with the black eyes, and when he looked, they were gone. I thought he would make fun of me, but he gave me a hug and said I could play with him so I wouldn't see them again. I love Adam, and I'm glad he's my brother, and not the kids with the black eyes. As heartwarming as that was, I felt a chill run up my spine. It felt wrong reading about such a little kid being so afraid and trying to describe what was clearly dread. And those kids, they wanted to make him one of them. I shuddered and skimmed the rest of the journal, but the kids with black eyes didn't show back up in this book. Well, there were 5 more of them, and I had a feeling they'd be in there somewhere. It looked like he was in middle school when they showed up again. Dear Journal, today was the first time I looked at my old journal in a long time. I had to, though. I thought I was crazy, but I'm glad I did because it proves I'm not. Well, I was walking home today from school with Kyle and Owen, like usual, and we were talking about the cute new girl in our math class and guessing who she was going to end up liking. I said it was going to be me, and when Kyle went to argue, he stopped and looked across the street. I looked to see why he looked so scared, and I saw 3 kids our age looking at us from across the street. They had black eyes, and it all hit me about what happened the summer before 1st grade. I forgot all about it until now. But the kid in the middle, it was the same one from the park. He was older, but I knew it was him. He looked happy, but it didn't feel like he was really happy. It felt like the way my uncle's hunting dogs look when they're chasing a rabbit. They started across the street, and I told Kyle and Owen to run and started booking it home. They must have felt the same way I did, because they didn't ask any questions and just ran away too. And the kids were chasing us until we split off to go to our houses. Then they just followed me and were slamming on the door telling me to open up, that they needed me to let them in. Mom was working for a few more hours, and I didn't know where Adam was. Probably at Judy's, but when I thought about going outside and running over to check, it made my legs shake. They kept at it for a while, but they gave up eventually and left, and I was so relieved I cried. I haven't cried like that in a long time. Probably since the last time I saw them. Dear Journal, Kyle and Owen were really weird today when I asked about what happened on their way home. They acted like they didn't know what I was talking about, and when I kept trying to ask about it, they got mad and walked to school without me. Why would they act like it didn't happen? We all saw those kids. I had to read yesterday, the old journal again, to make sure I wasn't remembering wrong, or I didn't dream the whole thing. But I know I didn't. I just want them to admit it happened. I don't understand why they wouldn't do it. I had to agree with Alan. Why the hell would they gaslight this poor kid like this if they all saw it? At least in the old journal, it looked like no one else ever saw him with the black-eyed boy. But having people you know saw it to refuse to acknowledge it must have been hard on the kid. I flipped around a bit and found another one that stood out to me. Dear Journal, I had Kyle and Owen stay over tonight. They're finally sleeping right now, but it's almost morning. We couldn't sleep after what happened. We were watching a movie and eating popcorn my mom made us when someone knocked at the door. My mom asked me to go get it, and when I did, I froze. It was that kid, the one with the black eyes. He had this big smile that made me think of a shark, and said it wasn't nice not to invite him over with my other friends. I told him we weren't friends, that he and his siblings creeped me out, and that he had to leave. My mom came up behind me during it and didn't seem to notice the kid's eyes because she was just talking to him like he was a normal kid. The kid said his name was Christian and that I invited him over and that he was sorry for being so late. I tried to get her to shut the door and tell her it wasn't true, but she told me I was being rude and told me that since he didn't have anything to sleep over, he could watch the movie before she brought him home. And then he was inside my house. I couldn't stop shaking as he came in, and he just kept looking around with that shark grin like he was ready to take a bite out of something. My mom nudged me to bring him to the living room with my friends, but I didn't want to. I begged her to tell him to leave, that I didn't want him here, and she yelled at me so loud that my friends came to see what was going on. They all got pale when they saw the kid I knew. I knew I was right and that they remembered the kid, and they saw him that afternoon. But it didn't matter. I had to bring him in, or else my mom said Owen and Kyle would have to go too. We all sat as far away from him on the couch as we could, but either he didn't notice or didn't care. Just kind of looked around when he wasn't looking at the TV, and mostly looked up at the ceiling. When the movie was over, he didn't say anything and just walked out into the darkness before my mom could come out to take him home. When Mom didn't come out at all, I went to talk to her about it, but she acted like she didn't know what I was talking about. Owen and Kyle talked about what happened a little to say how creepy it was, and said that after they went home tomorrow, they didn't want me to talk to them ever again. I don't blame them. Dear Journal, Dad's sick. After Owen and Kyle left this morning, we heard him coughing, and Mom checked on him and screamed. Adam and I went up and saw that he had coughed up blood on his pillow and was having a hard time breathing. He's in the hospital now, and Mom won't tell us what's wrong with him. He was just fine after work yesterday. He even helped me pick out the movie for last night. I don't know how, but it's that kid's fault. If Dad dies, I'll kill him. I swear I'll kill him. Just a few days later, there was a short entry, just one line, and not even a Dear Journal to start it. I'm going to find you, Christian, and I'm going to kill you for what you did. There were pages upon pages after that talking about his dad, how much he missed him, and how angry he was at that kid for taking him away. He was positive that this kid had killed him somehow, that it was this kid's fault that he got sick. I get it. He was just a kid, and his dad died, and the same boy made him lose his two best friends. But he was so sure. He made plans, maps, and diagrams about how he was going to kill this kid between half-hearted entries, talking about how hard his mom and brother were taking things, and how angry his brother got when Alan tried to tell him what he thought happened, how alone he felt. The only bright light was that his mom apparently got a dog to help the kids heal, and that the dog became his best friend not long after. Nothing else showed up about the black-eyed boy, aside from the occasional reference to his quest for revenge, until midway through high school, about a fifth of the way into the third journal. Dear Journal, I found him. Well, okay, Blitz found him, but the kid finally showed his fucking face after all this time. I was taking Blitz for a hike with me when he just showed up, out of nowhere. I probably wouldn't have even seen him if Blitz hadn't stopped and started growling. Just like the last time, he was older, but it was him, and he had that damn grin on his face the night that he killed my dad. He said it had been a long time and asked about Blitz, but after so long, I was not in the mood to talk. I told him that he had a lot of fucking nerve to show his face after what he did to my dad, and he actually stopped smiling for a second. I don't think it was actually because he felt bad, though. I think he didn't expect me to realize it was him. He said he was sorry to hear about my dad, but he didn't do it. He just wanted to see his old friend and watch a movie that night. Bullshit. He knows it was his fault. I told him I didn't know how he killed my dad, but that I knew it was him. But maybe he was still pissed that I didn't want to be like him, but that now he was going to pay for what he did. I was so pissed off when he started smiling again. A condescending smile like a fucking adult explaining to a kid why he can't have ice cream for dinner. He told me that it was impossible, but that he would forgive me for saying that if I went with him this time, that it would be too late soon, and if that happened, things would be a lot worse for me. That was when Blitz attacked him. It all happened so fast that I didn't even have a chance to react. Blitz just leapt at him and tried to bite him. Maybe because he was trying to protect me, the kid's eyes went wide. But before Blitz could get to him, he was just gone. It wasn't possible, but he was just gone. And then I heard him whisper in my ear that he'd be here if I changed my mind. But when I swung at him, he was gone again. I'm gonna make him pay on my next hike, but just in case, I'm gonna leave Blitz at home. I don't want that fucker to hurt him. A few entries passed with him hyping himself up, including a guilt-ridden and righteous entry detailing stealing his dad's rifle for the grim task, before an entry in shaky writing. Another entry with no Dear Journal to preface it. I fucked up so bad. I swear I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Judy. I'm so sorry, Adam. I'm so sorry, Alex. I'm just so fucking sorry. You didn't deserve this. All didn't deserve to pay for what I did. Before I could think about it too much, the next entry started, bookmarked by a laminated prayer card that they gave out at funerals. A card for a 2-year-old boy named Alex, with the same last name as Alan. I couldn't remember the context of who that was in the older entries, other than knowing that I'd seen it before, but the entry behind it was heartbreaking. Dear Journal, I haven't been able to write until after the funeral. I couldn't look up those entries and remember how selfish I was, how stupid I was. I know that I didn't know any better, that if I had known, I would have never risked doing this, but it still feels like it was my fault. Because it is. It's all my fault. I tried to apologize to Adam and Judy, and Adam started screaming at me and ended up breaking my nose after the funeral. Judy just looked so broken, so sad. Every time I think about her face that day, it hurts a little more. I don't think Adam will ever talk to me again. He doesn't believe me, and he accused me of trying to add his loss to my insane personal narrative about that kid. But it doesn't matter. At least he won't be at risk anymore, and hopefully Judy can heal. Considering what happens every time this kid shows up, I should probably write it down and confess my sins. No priest would forgive me anyway, and they shouldn't. I should never be forgiven. I went to the hiking trail and he was there. He was waiting just like he said he would. I came alone, and I brought Dad's gun with me, thinking it would be justice for his gun to be what took down his killer. Stupid. Fucking stupid. The kid was grinning that fucking shark grin at me, and before he could even open his mouth, I shot him with the rifle in his gut. His shirt turned black around the area where the buckshot had torn open his clothes and flesh. But there wasn't anything else. No guts. No pouring blood. Nothing but the clear evidence that he had been shot, plain as could be, in his stomach. He coughed up some black liquid that looked almost like tar and braced himself on the tree. And he laughed. He fucking laughed at me. He laughed hard and long and said that a no would have already made things bad for me, but that I had no idea how bad shooting him was going to be. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. I tried to level my gun at him again and shoot him in the head, but he dropped down and I just made a hole in the tree where he was bracing himself on. I ran over to try and finish him off, and he was gone. All that was left was some drips of that tar stuff that he'd coughed up and a few scraps of the shirt he had on. At the time, I was shocked, confused, pissed off as hell. I had no idea what he meant. I had no idea what I'd done. When I got home, Mom was crying. Adam had called from the new place he was renting with Judy. I was confused at first because I talked to them right before they'd headed out camping for the next 4 days, and it was only 2 days into the trip. Adam had even joked that if it rained, that Alex had his rain boots and umbrella, and they'd go fishing until the rain stopped. So why was he calling Mom? When she managed to explain, broken up by fits of sobbing, I was pale. I felt like throwing up, and I couldn't stop the tears. While they were camping, Alex had managed to wander off while they were setting up the campfire for lunch. They didn't realize he was gone until they were finished, and both ran off to find him. But Alex was in his PJs, the little brown rabbit onesie that Judy got him before the trip as a joke, and he was hard to find. The hunter found him first. When Adam heard the gunshot, he ran in that direction, worried and hoping for the best, and found Alex with a hole the size of his whole torso on the ground, with the hunter sobbing and apologizing next to his body. Adam barely could tell he was there, though. All he could do was hold Alex and sob himself until he threw up. Judy was close enough to hear him crying and came over, and it was like she broke. But she cradled his little body, and she was trying to wake him up, trying to wrap her jacket around the hole in him, trying to pretend that she wasn't holding a dead toddler in her arms. I knew this is what the kid meant. I knew that this was the reason Alex was dead. How the fuck could anything worse than this happen? Huh, Christian? How the fuck can things be worse than this? How can anything be worse than when I killed my own fucking nephew? My heart dropped. I could see where he got the idea from. Shooting the kid, leading to his nephew getting shot too. But I couldn't imagine that weighing on me. The idea that I killed my own family. That I killed a toddler. And it didn't get any better. There wasn't an entry, but another prayer card. A card for a woman named Judy, who had been in her early 20s. Hello, thank you for listening to The Death Collector Part 3, written by Hungry Shoulder 5305. There's a lot more to this series, and I'm curious to go further in it. But, I'm going to ask you guys for the usual. I need some help with this algorithm, so please, like, subscribe, and comment. Let's get human narrators a good spot on this channel. And until then, stay spooky.
I ask you, share my voice with others. Let them know that there is warmth in the cold, light in the darkness. My friends, lovers, disciples, this is Dante.